All right, well here we are beginning a new series entitled Song of Solomon for Beginners, and the subtitle of this series is The Beauty of Love and Relationship, actually celebrating the beauty of love and relationship. This is lesson number 1. We have 4 parts of this series. Lesson number 1, the foundation of love, and we'll be covering chapters 1 verse 1 to chapter 2 verse 7 in the book entitled Song of Solomon. We also have a workbook that goes along with the series, and I encourage you to get that. It's a lot easier. You'll have all the outline of the lessons and various other resources in that workbook, so you can follow along during the class. Well, let's begin first. Before we go into the text itself, I'd like to talk a little bit about Hebrew poetry and the poetic style of Song of Solomon. Hebrew poetry is, as many of you know, a significant part of the Old Testament. It includes books like Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon, as well as many of the prophets. Their books are written in poetic style. It is distinct from modern poetry because it relies less on rhyme and meter and more on what's called parallelism, imagery, and rhythm of thought. So here are some key features of Hebrew poetry. First is parallelism. Parallelism is a device where the author uses the repetition or the correspondence of ideas rather than the repetition and the rhyming of sounds. There's very little rhyming in Hebrew poetry. Parallelism is where a thought is expressed in the first line of the poem, and then it's repeated in different words in the second line, or it's contrasted, or it's expanded. So it's a comparison of thought, if you wish, as a technique to highlight certain ideas contained in the literature. Another feature is imagery, the use of imagery and metaphor. Vivid and often symbolic language is used to convey various ideas. The Psalm 23:1, for example, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. There's an image of Jesus as the shepherd of one's life. Repetition and refrains are used. In other words, reinforcement of key themes through repeated phrases or ideas. In Psalm 136, for example, the refrain, His love endures forever, is repeated throughout the poem. So the writer will write certain things and then will finish that thought with the idea that His reign endures forever, and then a few more lines and we'll repeat once again, His reign endures forever. Again, as a way of emphasizing this concept, repetition and refrain. Another thing called chiastic structures, or sometimes referred to as ABBA or ABCBA, often highlighting central themes. So if you look at Psalms 3 in verses 7 and 8, arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for you have smitten all my enemies on the cheek. You have shattered the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessings be upon your people. And so A, the first idea, arise, O Lord, and save me, my God. That's A. B, a different idea. For you have smitten all my enemies on the cheek. You have shattered the teeth of the wicked. There's B, that's the B idea, if you wish. And then the author repeats another idea and says, salvation belongs to the Lord. There's another B. And then the final A, may your blessings be on your people. So the Lord saving is the A idea, and the blessing be on the people, there's another idea that's similar to that, that's at the end. So you have one idea A, two different ideas B and B, and then a repetition of the first idea. In the last line you have A. So chiastic structure. You also have economy of words. In other words, many instances of Jewish poetry have compact, dense expressions with layered meanings. The example of the economy of words is in the Proverbs, for example. In just a few lines, a great amount of wisdom and application is contained. And so the poem, the poetry that we're looking at now, the Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, stands out among Hebrew poetic texts because of its unique focus on love and romantic relationships. It employs many elements of Hebrew poetry while adopting features specific to its celebratory and intimate themes. In other words, it's a poem about human love. There's not a lot of theology. There's not a lot of mention of God's love in the poem. It uniquely focuses on the love between two individuals, sexual love, marital love, all right? So it's unique in that way. Some of the distinctive features of this particular poem, the Song of Solomon, are the following. First, love poetry as a type or a genre, if you wish. Unlike other poetic books, it centers on human love, romantic desire, and marital intimacy rather than divine worship or divine wisdom. It celebrates the mutual affection between a bride and a groom, often understood allegorically as God's love for His people. It's also very rich in symbolism and imagery. Nature metaphors dominate. For example, the beloved is compared to flowers or animals or geographical features. For example, one says, "Your eyes are doves," in Solomon 1:15. These metaphors express admiration and beauty and the transcendent nature of human love. Also, the dialogue format. There's back and forth all the way throughout the poem, a conversational interplay between the bride, the groom, and also sometimes the daughters of Jerusalem. They're like a choir on the side here. From time to time, they interject some thoughts into the dialogue between the man and the woman. This back and forth structure is not very common in other Hebrew poetry. It is unique to the Song of Solomon. Also, the use of sensory language. The Song of Solomon is deeply sensory, invoking sight and sound and taste and smell and touch. For example, in chapter 1, verse 3, you read, "Your name is like perfume poured out." A very, very sensuous concept there that's described in chapter 1, verse 3. And then of course, it uses repetition and refrain. Phrases like, "Do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires," reoccur throughout the poem, emphasizing themes of timing and restraint in human love. Now, there are unique features of the Song of Solomon, but there's also some similarity between this poem and other Hebrew poetry. For example, the use of parallelism. Like other Hebrew poetry, Song of Solomon uses synonymous and synthetic parallelism to expand on ideas. In other words, lines that mean the same or lines that expand the meaning of the original thought. Also, symbolic imagery. The book employs vivid metaphors consistent with the poetic traditions that are found also in the Psalms as well as in books by the prophets. There are also some strict differences from other Hebrew poetry. First, the focus on human love. While Psalms exalts God and Proverbs provides wisdom, Song of Solomon uniquely focuses on romantic and marital love, a feature that is quite unique to Song of Solomon. You don't find this in other books. Also, the lack of direct theological themes. Unlike most Hebrew poetry, Song of Solomon does not explicitly mention God. It doesn't talk about prayer or worship, though its themes often have spiritual applications. And then its tone, it has a celebratory tone. The tone is celebratory and intimate, reflecting joy and delight, contrasting with the laments and the moral teachings of other poetic books in the Bible. And so here's a little background, if you wish, for the Song of Solomon. Let's get into the text itself, beginning with the very first verse. It says, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. And so the Song of Solomon is a unique and poetic book of the Bible that celebrates love, marriage, and intimacy. Its opening verse establishes it as the Song of Songs, a superlative phrase that highlights its significance as the pinnacle of the songs written by Solomon. In other words, we could say it's the song of all songs. This is the whole idea behind the very first verse. Tradition attributes its authorship to Solomon, the son of David, renowned for his wisdom and poetic contributions, including many of the Psalms and Proverbs that he wrote. The actual authorship, if you wish, there we go. Solomon, again, as the author, he's credited with composing 1,005 songs in 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 32. And this is considered his masterpiece, Song of Songs, his masterpiece. His wealth and wisdom and status provide the context for this book, as Solomon's experiences with love and marriage likely informed its content. 700 wives, 300 concubines. Solomon knew something about human love. There are alternative views, as always. People who don't agree with this particular idea of authorship. Some scholars suggest that the book may have been written by another poet in Solomon's court, or was later attributed to him because of his association with wisdom and love poetry. But we stick with the idea that Solomon is the one who wrote it. He put his name on it. He was a writer of songs, and this is his masterpiece. The purpose of the book itself, the Song of Solomon, serves multiple purposes depending on the perspective from which it is read. For example, a literal perspective. From a literal perspective, it's a celebration of romantic love, courtship, and marital intimacy between a man and a woman. It provides a biblical model of mutual respect and admiration and passion in relationships. The idea that some have that, well, and the Bible really doesn't promote passion or intimacy and so on and so forth, is false. One reading of the Song of Solomon dispels that idea immediately. Also, it has an allegorical perspective. In other words, seen as a symbolic portrayal of God's love for His covenant people, Israel. In Christian tradition, often it is interpreted as a picture of Christ's love for His church. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25 and 27. A lot of different ways of looking at this poem. And then from a practical perspective, it offers wisdom on cultivating a healthy relationship and the value of love within God's design for marriage. It has various themes, first of which, the Song of Solomon, rich in themes that resonate across time and cultures. These themes highlight the beauty and the complexity of love in its various forms. And so the first theme that we can derive from it is love and desire, the most obvious one, love and desire. The book portrays love as a powerful and beautiful force that must be cultivated with care and intention. Love is shown as both an emotional and a physical connection celebrated within the covenant of marriage. Another theme, marriage and intimacy. It emphasizes the joy and sanctity of marriage, presenting intimacy as a gift from God to be honored and to be cherished. Another theme, beauty and admiration. The poetic descriptions of physical beauty and emotional qualities reflect the importance of affirming and valuing one's partner. We read about that in Song of Solomon, chapter 4, verses 1 to 7. There's also the idea of God's relationship with His people. Through allegorical readings, it serves as a reminder of God's deep love and faithfulness and desire for an intimate relationship with His people. And then finally, an important practical theme, the timing and patience that one needs to have when dealing with a love relationship. There are repeated admonitions to not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Chapter 2 and chapter 3, chapter 8, this idea is repeated over and over again. And it underscores the importance of waiting for the right time and the right context for love to flourish in a proper way. Some applications for this poem. For relationships, it encourages mutual respect and admiration and the celebration of love within marriage itself. It also provides guidance on the importance of communication and commitment and selfless love that enables a relationship to grow. As far as spiritual growth is considered, it encourages believers to reflect on God's deep love for His people and the intimacy of their relationship with Him. Just as a human being can have an intimate relationship with another human being, this poem reminds us that we can also have an intimate relationship, a deep, close relationship with God Himself, and it is something that God actually desires to have with us. And so the Song of Solomon invites readers to celebrate the beauty of love and relationships all within God's design. Whether understood as a literal celebration of marriage or a spiritual allegory, it teaches timeless truths about the value of love, the value of intimacy, and of course, the importance of commitment. And so we begin with a more focused look at the poem itself, an introduction about its authorship and its purpose and its themes. We've looked at that. Now we look at the idea of mutual attraction, because the poem speaks about this phenomenon in Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 2 to 14. This passage captures the beginning of mutual attraction between the beloved, which is the bride, and the lover, who is the bridegroom. Through poetic language and vivid imagery, it highlights the admiration of both character and physical qualities. The focus is on the deep respect and delight each person feels towards the other, forming the foundation for not only a loving relationship, but a godly relationship as well. And so a couple of things that we observe as we begin reading the poem. First of all, the expression of desire in verses 2, 3, and 4. It says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine." So here the bride expresses her longing for the bridegroom's love, comparing it to the richness and the pleasure of wine. The language conveys deep emotional and physical desire within the context of admiration. The bridegroom's love is not just physical, it's enriching, it's delightful, and it's worth pursuing. And these all are natural human emotions, natural human feelings when one is in a love relationship. Another verse, pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. Here the bride praises the character and the reputation of the bridegroom. His name reflects his inner qualities, trustworthiness, kindness, and integrity. The lesson here is that true attraction is rooted in the whole person, not merely the appearance, but the character of the person and the reputation of that individual as well. Another observation, and that is the awareness of one's own worth in verses 5 to 7. It begins with the lady. She says, dark am I, yet lovely. The bride acknowledges her natural beauty while recognizing societal pressures and insecurities. If you had dark skin in that society, it suggested that you worked outside, and if you worked outside, it probably meant you were not part of the upper class. The women in the upper classes and in the royal court, if you wish, their skin was fair. They protected their skin. They didn't have to work in the fields and so on and so forth. And so this young woman here acknowledges that she knows she's beautiful, but her skin is dark, but she doesn't let that become an obstacle between herself and the one that she loves. Her physical appearance, marked by labor in the sun, reflects her hard work and her humility. She acknowledges it. She doesn't try to hide it. The lesson here is that healthy relationships involve self-acceptance and confidence in one's God-given worth. In other words, she knew who she was and she knew how she was. She didn't have any false modesty about herself. It says in this verse 5 to 7, it says, tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. And so the bride actively seeks the bridegroom, showing that mutual attraction involves intentional pursuit and engagement. Today we would say no playing hard to get, no games. She was interested in him, so she wanted to know, where do you feed your flock? If that's where you are, that's where I'll go in order to see you. Another observation, the admiration of beauty and character. The poem says, I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. And so here the bridegroom compares the bride to a prized horse, symbolizing her elegance and strength and uniqueness. His words affirm her value and highlight her captivating presence, even if it seems strange to our ears, comparing a woman to a horse. This was not meant to be a sideways joke or anything. It was a high compliment. She had the stature and the form of a prized horse in the king's stables. He also says the following, your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. And so the bridegroom admires her physical beauty, but also enhances it with the imagery of adornment, suggesting his appreciation for her uniqueness and for her dignity. He imagines, not only are you beautiful, but I can just imagine how beautiful you must be wearing lovely jewelry that accents your form and your skin and so on and so forth. And then you read, my beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh resting between my breasts. And so the bride uses, again, sensory imagery to describe the intimate and cherished nature of her relationship with the bridegroom. She's always filled, she's always aware of the presence, of his presence with her. Myrrh was a sweet smelling item, and a small pouch of it worn around the neck on the chest reminds her that he's close to her and she wants him close, just as this perfume is close to her and she can smell it at all times. A wonderful comparison of the two. The lesson here provided with these opening verses, the following: love begins with genuine appreciation of the other person, the things you like about them. There's something that you like about them, and they are things that you can put your finger on. True attraction encompasses both inner and outer qualities. She likes him because he's honest, because he's a man of integrity. She likes him because he's brave. Any number of qualities, but she knows why she is attracted to him. Admiration in a relationship should go beyond physical appearance to include character and integrity and reputation. And so mutual affirmation builds the foundation for a strong and healthy relationship, fostering respect and confidence. You tell her, the man, you tell her the things about her that you admire, not just her physical form, but other qualities about her character that you admire, and she tells you about the things that she sees in you that are worth admiring. And the author is suggesting that this is the beginning of a healthy and a strong relationship. You know what your relationship is based on. And so a certain application here for individuals, for example, a practical lesson is that evaluate what draws you to others. Is it character or is it merely outward appearance? And that's a question that everyone can ask themselves when they're at the beginning of a relationship. What is it exactly that draws you to the person? Just the way they look? Or is there something about their character that is also appealing to you? And also cultivate personal qualities such as kindness and integrity that make you admirable to other people. Don't just focus on the makeup and the clothes. We all have to work on the inward person. We all have to work on our character, if you wish, because this is a very strong draw to another person when we're wanting to build a relationship, when we're looking to build a relationship. Also, application for relationships themselves. Take time to affirm your partner's character and qualities. Don't rush too quickly into other areas of the relationship without first determining and expressing to each other what it is about each other that you like and that you admire. Recognize and celebrate the uniqueness and the value of your partner. Tell them what you like about them and tell them why you like. It not only clarifies the reason for your feelings, but it also is an encouragement to the other individual. And then the spiritual connection. Reflect on how God admires His people, not for outward perfection, but for their hearts. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. Emulate God's love by valuing others for who they are and not just what they can offer to you. The key takeaway from this section, mutual attraction in a relationship is not superficial. It involves recognizing and appreciating the whole person, their character, their values, their God-given uniqueness, as well as the way that they look. Genuine admiration lays the groundwork for a love that is deep and enduring and God-honoring. Another important theme is godly restraint in relationships. Song of Solomon chapter 2 verses 1 to 7. This passage captures the joy and beauty of love using poetic imagery to describe the blossoming affection between the bride and the groom. It also emphasizes the need for patience and restraint reminding us that love flourishes when it is nurtured in the right time and the right context. The refrain, "Do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires," repeated several times, underscores the importance of self-control in relationship. So let's have a couple of observations here. First, the beauty of love, verses 1 to 3. She says, "I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys." And so the bride describes herself as a humble yet beautiful flower, emphasizing her uniqueness and value in the eyes of her beloved. And then it says, "Like a lily among thorns is my darling among young women," among the young women. The bridegroom now affirms the bride's singular beauty, elevating her above others. This imagery highlights the exclusivity and the special nature of their relationship. In other words, she is not like everyone else, basically, is being said in poetic fashion. She's not like everyone else. She stands out from everyone else. Another passage, "Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men." So now it's the bride's turn. She compares the bridegroom to a fruitful tree, providing shade and sustenance, symbolizing his ability to protect and to nurture her. In other words, she affirms his manhood. Today, she would probably say, "You're a real man." They're saying it in poetic ways, but basically she's affirming that he is a real man, that she recognizes his manhood, and that is an important thing for her. She's not a woman that says, "I don't need men, I can take care of myself." No, she affirms the idea that she needs a man, a real man in her relationship, and she sees that in him. And then we continue with love's delight and joy in verses 4 to 6. "He has brought me to the banquet hall, and his banner over me is love." And so the bride describes her joy in being publicly cherished by the bridegroom. The banner symbolizes his protection and his provision and declaration of love. And he does it publicly. He wants the world to know that he loves this woman and that he appreciates her. Another verse, "Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love." Here the bride acknowledges the overwhelming emotional and physical pull of love. And anyone who has been in love and on their way to getting married recognizes how emotional all of that can be. The intensity of her feelings highlights the passion that accompanies love when it is genuine, and especially when it is mutual. One person says, I love you, and then the other person says, I love you too. And when those things are said, it kind of brings the relationship to another level, another intensity. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening here. She says, "His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me." This intimate imagery, again, reflects the closeness and security found in their relationship. It also points to the care and intentionality of love within proper boundaries. They are declaring and they are expressing their love for each other, but they do so within what is proper. That's the point that's being made here. And so in verse 7 we have the call for restraint. The call for restraint. "Do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires." This refrain appears multiple times throughout the book, emphasizing the importance of patience in allowing love to develop naturally and at the right time. It is a reminder that rushing love or indulging in physical passion outside of its intended context, which is marriage, can diminish its beauty and its sanctity. And so waiting for love at the right time protects its beauty and its purity. And so love is a gift from God. It's designed to flourish in its proper season and context. And so patience and self-control allow love to develop on a solid foundation of trust and respect and mutual admiration. Doing so makes the sexual intimacy experienced within marriage much more satisfying and much more meaningful. Impulsiveness or premature actions can lead to regret and harm the purity of the relationship. And so the application for people, for example, individuals who are at different points in their lives. For individuals, let me get a slide, there we go. For individuals, the lesson is practice patience. Resist the temptation to rush into relationships or physical expressions of love. Trust God's timing and focus on growth. Use the waiting period to grow spiritually and emotionally, preparing yourself for a future intimate relationship. For those who are in a relationship, well, the first rule we learn here is set boundaries. Establish clear boundaries to protect the purity of the relationship until it matures naturally. And honor each other. Seek to respect and cherish your partner, valuing their character and their integrity over momentary desires. Another application is the spiritual connection. In the spiritual connection, we're encouraged to trust in God's timing. Just as God's plans for our lives unfold at the right time, so should love. It's not that, well, we trust God with everything else, I'm on God's timetable and I'm waiting for Him to open doors of opportunity and so on and so forth, all except when I fall in love. Well, when I fall in love, all bets are off, we're on my timetable. But no, we didn't invent human love. We didn't invent human passion. God is the one that invented this. God is the one who has given this gift to us for our joy and for our satisfaction. So we need to trust in His timing. Just as God's plans for our lives unfold at the right time, so should the experience of love follow the same format. And also God's restraint and faithfulness. Reflect on how God's patience with us mirrors the restraint that He calls us to practice in relationships. So a key takeaway from all of this, the joy of love is fully realized when it is nurtured within God's design and His timing. Restraint and self-control are not restrictions, but they are protective measures that preserves love's beauty and ensure that it flourishes in the right season. And you will know that as you experience it and as you call out to God for help in negotiating the various ups and downs, if you wish, of a love relationship. Okay, well that's the first lesson for a Song of Solomon. Little homework if you wish. Go back and read chapter 1:1 to 2:7. Now that you have this information in hand, perhaps the verses will have more meaning for you now. And go ahead and read chapters 2 verse 8 to chapter 3 verse 5, because that is what we will cover next time we're together. So thank you for your attention. I look forward to seeing you next time, Lord willing. Bye-bye.